because it's happening here.
Came over here. What does it mean?
You know, I grew up in what I guess you call a typical family.
We break all the stories, and that's just a fact. And that's why everyone has a story to tell.
Right along live, yeah, it's the real deal.
Make this carnival a special one at Spice Isle Jewelry. Get up to 40% off our collection of silver and gold jewelry with purchases above $115. Visit our 2 locations on Grenville Street, St. George's and Spiceland Mall Grand Dance and see our fine selection of traditional West Indian bangles, necklaces, earrings, rings and our unique handmade pieces. Step into Spice Isle Jewelry and shop in air-conditioned comfort with friendly, helpful and courteous staff. We also pay the most for scrap gold. Our repair service is second to none. Treat yourself or someone special with something special from Spice Isle Jewelry. Serving you since 1986. Call us on telephone number 440-3155 or 440-6648. Sale ends August 31st.
Yes, and yes. Welcome to Red Along Live for today. It's Tuesday. Yeah, man, Tuesday on the ride. Tuesday on the ride. What's up, family, friends, everybody locked on. Thank you for locking it down. Donna, how you doing, guys? As you come in, go ahead and shove the program. And yes, oh my, wow, we have a story for you today. You know, in all my years doing this program, right? I mean, we hear stories. We hear life-changing stories. We hear miracles. We hear so much different type of stories. But this one today is a different one. Very, very much so. Yeah. My next guest, guys, who we'll see shortly, was shot 15 times. 15 times. And believe it or not, he's here to chat with us live. Now, if that's not a miracle or something, you know, I don't know what is. Because most time we hear of less severe gun incident than this one. And we're talking about them, not necessarily talking to them. But this one is quite different. Good evening to you, Clara Kelly. How you doing? Hey, Marilyn Gordon. How you doing? Steve Perrott. How you doing? Ingrid. And of course, there are a few people. Lydia James, I believe. She's watching, but she's in Facebook jail, so she can't comment. So let's just poke fun at her. Just give her the laugh face because she cannot comment. She could only watch and hope and pray that she could have commented, but she can't. All right, Margaret Raymond, how you doing? Ingrid, Clara, everybody. Guys, let me also say at the top that this would be somewhat of a slightly abbreviated program today. I have a very urgent run out to make right before the 7 o'clock hour though. I'll give you guys the time. I just got to run it a little bit before. Okay. All right. Okay. All right, guys. So let's get right into it. Desi Paul, how you doing? Good evening. Jackie Chaitan, how you doing? Agnes, thank you so much. Thank you, Agnes. We appreciate you. All right. So let's get right into it, guys. My next guest is Gabe. And my producer, Lois JJ, she is the best that you could find. She oftentimes get these very powerful, life-changing stories. And I believe it's good because it bring across a message, right? Because a lot of people, the message here is not just one of survival, but one of strength. Because as you will hear from my next guest, he flirted with death. He had a conversation with death. And he decided together while he was having a conversation with Death, that Death was not gonna take him today. Let's bring on Gabe so he could share his entire story here with us. My good friend Gabe, how are you doing? How are you? How are things?
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Gabe, as I was saying from the top, right? Oftentimes we hear of less tragic gun incident than these, and we are not talking to the person. We are talking about. But today, I mean, this is. I don't think it's anything short of a miracle that you're here to talk with us. So welcome to the program.
Yeah, thanks again for having me. It's a great opportunity. I like being able to have a voice.
Absolutely, absolutely. Gabe, where should we start? Because it's tragedy mixed with good luck, good fortune. I don't know if it's a angel that you have covering you. I don't know. So I want to figure out where to start. First, let's try to understand. Tell us a little bit about Gabe. Who is Gabe?
So I was initially born in Paraguay, raised in Wisconsin. Ran away from Wisconsin as soon as I graduated high school, joined the military, and was bouncing around the country for work for the last few years. And so I actually, when the incident happened, I lived in South Carolina, but I was working in Minneapolis.
Right. So you have you're military trained.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was an 0341 in the Marine Corps, infantry mortarman.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Okay. So Gabe is military trained. It probably says a lot because that probably aided with his survival techniques of and why he's here today. All right. So Gabe, let's start with a story. You were shot 15 times. Tell us.
Correct.
Start from the beginning and tell us the story. What happened?
Okay, so as I said, I was up working in Minneapolis, and you'd think that this would be something that would happen on the job because I contract as a bodyguard, or I did before the incident. And so you'd think it'd be something that happened on the clock, but no, we would get off and we would go back to the hotel, and I thought the woman working behind the desk of the hotel was cute, so I'd get off shift and I'd shoot my shot every night for like the 2.5 weeks we were there, and we actually ended up hitting it off. Right. And so after the contract concluded, I didn't have another one to bounce to, and the company was actually talking about trying to move me to Minnesota to set up a team there and kind of run operations from there. So I figured, why don't I try to grow some roots? And things got a little serious with the girl from the hotel. And so we eventually progressed to the point where we put titles on the relationship, and we advertised that on social media because I'm the kind of guy I wanted to show her off. I wanted everyone to know. And it was like within the hour of us announcing it on Facebook and Instagram and everything else, one of her exes, who she had been broken up with for I believe about a year, messaged her something along the lines of, "Well, why didn't we go Facebook official when we dated?"
So hold up. So you guys made your relationship known to the world. Like, yeah, we're together, we're official. Couples do that all the time.
Yeah. No, I thought we had something special going, and
right. So her ex-boyfriend now didn't really take that too well.
He did not. The passive aggressive questioning, that was the start. As the weeks went by, he was starting to kind of annoying to kind of desperate to pretty threatening. The things he was doing, things he was saying, that she would show me text conversations, and towards the end, like even the morning that it happened, when he was blowing up her phone, and he sounded erratic. Like within the same of speech, he would be just huge range of emotions in a very short time period.
Mhm.
At one point, apparently, he offered her his life savings to dump me, and the the night or so before he shot me, he was camping outside of the hotel she worked at, and
Oh,
was like banging on the door and like pounding on his horn. She worked the night shift at that point in time, so it was throughout the night, downtown Minneapolis, middle of the night, just honking his horn in the middle of the street.
so while they were involved, what kind of person did she explain? What kind of person he was? Was he a violent type? Was he an abusive type to her during the relationship?
No, she never gave that impression. The things that she told me when she would like talk about him, and when they dated, she actually said that she was the problem in their relationship when they dated, and part of why that didn't work out.
Okay.
And she didn't believe him to be a violent person. She said she knew like he was a gun nut, and she knew that he owned firearms, but
Yeah.
didn't believe that he would actually go to the lengths to hurt somebody with them.
But did they officially broke it off, or was he still on the sideline as to where they are in the relationship?
They had been. She had dated a few guys in between us, as far as I know,
Okay.
and they, again, as far as I know, they were done, and he had been trying to push her away, and it sounded a little weird, like because she said that she would kept him around because he was apparently suicidal, but
Oh,
um, yeah.
oh, he was that type. He was the type that she just kept him kept him happy because he
Yeah.
probably did something to himself.
So yeah, it kind of sounded like there were two different versions of him, and one was the one that wanted nothing to do with her and was trying to push her away, and the other one couldn't get enough of her. And when the relationship went official, he became the second of the two options, where he was trying to get back in there, and just because something about her and my relationship might have seemed different to him,
Mhm.
he wanted back in the picture.
Is it you that he didn't like so much? Do you think that he just disliked you so much?
I do believe that had something to do with it, because again, he didn't seem to find any of I believe it's just like one or two guys. I don't want to make it sound like she dated a bunch of people,
Right.
but it didn't seem like he viewed either of them as a threat to whatever they had, or anything that he needed to act on or take seriously. So I would assume it had something to do specifically with me.
Yeah. All right. Let me give you guys an update. If you just came in, we're talking to Gabe. Gabe is sharing his story as what transpired. This man that you're looking at, he is actually alive and well and in speaking to us right now. However, this man, Gabe, he was shot 15 times, right? And as I was saying a couple times, guys, usually in situations even less severe than this, we are talking about the person. We are talking now here with Gabe. He went through this, and we're about to go into the meat of what transpired. So tell us about the day of the incident. What happened? What transpired on that day?
So I was actually driving back up to Minneapolis, to Minneapolis from. I had been in Florida for a bachelor party, and I had stopped in my hometown of Wisconsin. So I was maybe 4.5 hours away, and I was driving up that night so her and I could hang out when she got off. I believe she had it was Memorial Day weekend. I believe she had a 2 or 3 day weekend that we were going to spend together.
Right.
And as I'm driving up, she's texting me, called me a few times, saying he is blowing up my phone. Text, call, text. Like he's sitting out front in his car, and like she made sure the doors were locked because of him, and then he was like banging on them for a while, then leaning on him for a while, and just saying a bunch of weird, crazy things and acting erratic. So I got up there kind of on high alert because I don't know if he had circled the building at all, but I got up there right around 7 a.m. when she got off, and I intentionally took the back alley, to the back door to meet her out there to avoid any confrontation out front. And I picked her up and I drove her home. And right before she came out, he actually jumped the curb onto the sidewalk in his car and then drove through the little walkway around the back of the building. And I know he saw me. I thought something was going to happen out back of the hotel, but he ended up driving around and just circling again. And so then she came out and I drove her home, and he's texting, calling, blowing her up. I remember we pull into the parking garage across the street from where she lived, and he called, and I remember she looked at me, like, he won't stop calling. And I had her, she answered, she put it on speaker. And that was, where I got the info I was telling you earlier about, how unhinged he sounded and how erratic he sounded. And there was he would talk about a happy memory and then get beg and then yell and then immediately apologize for yelling, same sentence. And so, from the bodyguard type work I had been doing for the last years, okay, this is someone that when someone hires me and says, there's a stalker, or there's an ex, or there's someone we just fired, he's matching, he's checking every single box as you go down. This is someone that you would actually take steps to look out for, not just an empty threat.
Right.
I see probably was on some type of drugs comment at the bottom, and he had lost a bunch of weight according to her, and it's believed that he hadn't slept in days, so he could have potentially been on some type of upper this morning as well. But yeah, so because he matches, all the red flags that I look out for at work, I'm saying, hey, we shouldn't we shouldn't go in the building. Let's find a hotel somewhere. Let's go hang out at a park. Let's do anything other than go inside, because as an EP professional, sure, you work armed, but something my partner would always say, and one of my mentors would always say is, if you get to the point on a detail where you have to draw your gun, you've already lost. Because you should be able to avoid that threat. You should be able to de-escalate any situation. You should never want to have to use your firearm. You should never want to shoot somebody.
Right.
And
of course, you be trained and fully equipped to defend yourself because you are military trained.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
I'd taken a few pistol courses as well after getting out, just to stay fresh and keep up on that as well.
Right.
But yeah, so her and I, it turns into an argument in the car, and the engine's still running, and I put it in reverse, we're gonna go, and she gets out of the car and is I won't be scared to go in my own apartment. So at that point, she starts walking, and at that point, I put my car back in park. I turn it off. I'm not letting her go in there alone. So at this point, we take the elevator down to the first floor, and it's in it's in a building with a bunch of shops. It's connected to the downtown Minneapolis Skyway, and I'm it's 7 a.m, so nothing's open yet, but I'm still I'm looking around, scanning the upper levels and looking for anyone, basically. We make it outside and we cross the street. I'm I'm even going as far as scanning rooftops, which I remember kind of laughing at myself in the moment. He's not going to be sitting up there with a rifle, but I still peeked, and we made it inside and nodded at the in the lobby of her building. There's a bar, and then there's a little kiosk with uniformed security people, and kind of nodded at them, and then took the little side hallway up to into the apartment complex itself. And I remember I'm checking my corners. I kind of have I'm carrying concealed, so I don't want to telegraph that I have anything on me. But I remember like my hand is floating around the area. So yeah, we get onto the elevator, and at this point I'm thinking like I didn't see his car, but I knew there's an underground parking garage under the building for tenants, and I'm wondering like if he still has a key to the building, or if he still has a key to the apartment. I'm thinking if he's up there, he might be in her apartment. So we get out of the elevator, and it's kind of a V with the elevators being at the bottom of the V, and it goes left and right. And I did check the corner, like looking left, and I did a lot of things I would do at work, but I wasn't as thorough as I would be on the clock, because I didn't want to break her sense of security. So there are a lot of boxes I didn't check, and the things I would normally do. Again, if we were working, I never would have went in the building. I checked to the left, and then we went right. And I kind of looked over my shoulder a little bit, and then we're walking. She's talking. I'm so focused, I don't know what she's talking about. And then I hear a door close behind us, and I heard footsteps, and I start to turn, and I'm like turning around, looking over my shoulder, and I see the gun is already out. Like I see a black handgun, and then I look up and I see his eyes.
Wow. But pause right there, because there are also a few questions that the viewers want to find out. Now, if you was monitoring and you were very concerned, obviously, of the potential risk to your life, why didn't you call the police?
Honestly, it never really crossed my mind. I didn't really think that Minneapolis PD would do anything about it. And I also had kind of a bad taste in my mouth from the department from the year prior, because I had worked a couple details in and around the protests and the demonstrations, stuff like that, and I had been tear gassed multiple times. So there might have been a little bit of pride there as well.
Right. Okay.
That's my
calling the police. In hindsight, and I know we haven't spoken about the actual incident yet, but in hindsight, do you think that it probably would have been a good idea?
Potentially. I think it came out afterwards that I think his name was still on the lease, and they still had some financial stuff that was tied together. So I think if I had called the police and we had waited and the police had searched the building and found him, he could have just said, "Hey, I legally technically live here. Like I can be here. I have this key, all that."
Right.
And they would have left. If I could have thought it through instead of just having to react and move, there were a bunch of there's a good amount of Marine veterans and private security contractors I knew in Minneapolis. I could have called one of my guys and had them go up and check through the floor in the building first, because the guy wouldn't have been looking for them. Right. And it could have been, okay, yeah, he's sitting in the stairwell or sitting by the stairwell. Maybe don't go in, or something like, or maybe even had a second or third guy on the elevator with me, type thing.
Okay. All right. So the police was not called. So let's go back to that point right now. You stepped out, you looked at him, you looking dead on, that black handgun slowly moving up to your chest or moving. You see his eye. You made eye contact with him. He looked at you. You saw him.
So I'm kind of looking over my shoulder and kind of starting to turn. And so yeah, I see the gun first. It's already raised and at the ready. So my eyes slide up the gun, and I meet his eyes. Doesn't say a word to me, and just immediately starts pulling the trigger.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, he was very, very quickly, like around a second or quicker. I thought I was screaming. Like I felt the first one hit, and my brain started screaming. I thought I was out loud. Apparently, according to the set, I wasn't. But yeah, so he was shooting quick enough that I had already started to turn and was still turning while he was shooting, and he still managed to get me in the back next to the spine, in the back of the left foot somehow, and then in like kind of the shoulder blade, like where the shoulder meets the back, and then once in each butt cheek. So yeah, I got those right away, and most of the rest of them hit me up and down my left side as I was turning. So I didn't have more torso damage because a good amount of the bullets that hit me in the chest ended up going through my left arm first.
Did this guy, was he just a horrible shot, or he was just purposely trying to miss vital organs?
I think the any drugs that he might have been on, and the lack of sleep, and apparently the lack, when Lisette saw him the night before, she said that he looked like he had lost weight because he hadn't been eating. So any loss of that, he could have been a good shot beforehand, but at that point in time, he wasn't. And I think there was a lot more emotion involved that made any training they might have had go out the window, because it wasn't about just the quick clean stop the threat or kill me. It was he was pulling the trigger like around a second or quicker, so he wasn't letting the gun reset before he fired again, which is how I believe ballistically it ended up being so sporadic. Plug my phone in real quick. Just
let me update the viewers a bit, guys. We're talking to Gabe, and Gabe survived 15 direct shots. Gabe, how far were you and the gunman when he started to fire, and you're looking back at him? How far? What was the distance between you and him at that time?
Never more than 10 feet. He was also moving while shooting. When he started shooting, he was further away than he was when he finished. He was definitely moving towards me while he was pulling the trigger.
So at that time, guns blazing, you there, you absorbing, getting all the shots. Where is the girlfriend?
So either she ducked over, there was like a little divot in the hallway that it wasn't in cover, but it wasn't directly in the hallway. And she either ducked over herself or I pushed her, and she was kind of curled up, head in her hands. She knew it was him, and I remember her yelling his name, like, "Stop, Michael, stop, stop shooting him, stop doing this," as I'm spinning and getting shot up.
Wow. But he never once turned the gun on her.
Not then. I believe that he was he finished firing all 15 rounds into me, and then he was loading another magazine into his gun.
So yeah, he wasn't done with 15.
No.
Oh wow.
So by the time I hit the ground, because I took 3 or 4 to the left hip, I took another one to the right leg, and then there was the one to the left foot, and then also the 2 to the butt. So I was not doing very well as when it came to standing at that point. So I ended up on the ground, facing him, and he fired. He ended up firing one more round that went right through my chest, kind of lower stomach area. And yeah, so he drops an empty magazine, reloads, and this is where I'm thinking, I see an opportunity. So I decide that it's my time to, draw and shoot back. I was a left-handed shooter. I was left-handed, so I went to draw like I had, trained for at this point over a decade, and that's when I realized my left arm didn't work.
Oh my! So your arm was shot up so bad you couldn't even pull the trigger.
I couldn't move it to pull the gun out of the holster. I actually ended up I tried arm in there in between the gun to pull it out right side up. I ended up drawing and pulling upside down, and I pulled the trigger to fire back with an upside down gun.
Listen, this sounds like a whole Netflix movie. I could see it. Someone said it sounded like a Chuck Norris movie. This guy standing about 10 feet away from you, shooting, firing off, firing off, firing off. The first couple of shots hit you on the buttocks and in your back, in your leg, all over the place.
Hmm.
And at this point, no vital organ.
No. So he did end up hitting my brachial artery in my left arm and my femoral artery in my right leg. And then my left lung was punctured. But no, as far as surgeries and major organs hit, he shot the tail off my pancreas and I had to have my spleen removed. But otherwise, my stomach is fine. My right lung was fine. My heart, fine. And somehow the first round barely missed my spine, like right below the lungs. So I could have been paralyzed. But yeah, no, I got very lucky with his inaccurate and sporadic shooting.
So, talk about the girlfriend now. She's curled up somewhere in a corner, and obviously he knows that she's there. At any point, did he move to her, pointed at her, shot at her?
So I pulled the trigger and my arm went limp because of how much blood I had lost and was losing.
Right.
And he finished loading the magazine. He looked there, like he stood there for a second or two while I tried to, re-raise the firearm and continue, which I only fired one round. I never got mine back up. And he sat there, and at this point, I'm kind of staring at my gun, trying to make my arm work. But she told me afterwards that there was a good couple seconds that felt like an eternity to her, where they made eye contact, and it was like he was thinking about whether he did want to, finish me off or whether he wanted to shoot her. And so there was a second or two in there where he thought about it, and then he ended up leaving. So by the time I got my gun back up, he was gone.
So he finally got a conscience. After he shot you so many times, he finally grew conscience and decided, what did I just do? I wonder if what I'm doing is the right thing. He started to think about it. Sad, right? But at this time, you're losing pints and pints and pints and pints of blood, right? Mm-hmm. And also before we go to that point, if he was so close to you and he had access to you and he wanted to finish you off so badly, why didn't he get closer to you, like really close range, and just finish?
At this point, I was a little frantic in trying to, get the gun back up, because I thought that was my only opportunity to live at that point, because he very easily could have just taken a couple steps and, fired a couple into my head.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
So I don't know what went through his mind in between, me firing back and their eye contact and him leaving. I will never know what happened in those couple seconds inside his head, because he could have, very easily lifted his gun back up, finished me off, and killed her. But that being said, I think he wanted me to bleed out.
Oh, he wanted to finish you the slow way. He didn't want to finish you off so quickly. He wanted
because at that point, I was wearing a blue hoodie, and at that point, my entire left arm was red, and there were a couple spots on my chest that were red, and the jeans that I was wearing were soaked red through the left hip and the upper right leg.
Probably his goal were to let her see you suffer.
Probably.
Might be an analogy, because he could have well ended right there. But I mean, I'm happy that he didn't, because you hear now to tell the story of it. So he developed a conscience, he grew a conscience, and then what, he ran?
Yeah, the police ended up cornering him about, I want to say, about a 45-minute drive northwest of the city of Minneapolis,
Wait, wait.
in a
How,
small town called Elk River.
how did the police get involved now?
There was, so she's actually not the one listed on the police report. I'm not going to give out his name, but
Right.
one of the neighbors who was up and getting ready to go for his morning run or something ended up calling the police when the shooting started, and he actually came out with towels and asked what he could do to help. He was actually the one that let the police and the paramedics in.
Oh,
Because you have to key card scan to get into the apartment complex part of the building.
right.
Uh, and yeah, so the police they did end up interviewing the girlfriend, and she was the one that told them his make and model of car and what he was wearing, and kind of narrowed it down so they could track him. I think she ended up giving like phone number and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I was in surgery at this point for the police chase, and so I'm missing some of the details that might have happened in between
Right.
the police getting there and the next
So,
month.
so you there, and you said to me earlier, which seems pretty interesting, that you start to have that kind of like a negotiation with death. Like, should you just uh, stay here and die, or should you try to save yourself? Because you did say earlier that you're military trained. How were you able
Mm.
to survive?
Well, there was the neighbor coming out and asking if the shooter was still there helped me kind of not relax but repurpose, I guess, because there was a part of me that once I shot back, I was thinking he could have just taken cover in the elevators and waited a minute or two to see what I did and then come back out. But the neighbor coming out, it's like, okay, he is actually gone. Um, and at that point, I was, I looked down and I kind of triaged myself and like internally, like, where does it hurt the most? Where do I have the biggest issues? Where am I most likely to die from? And I saw and felt that I was bleeding in my right leg, and I thought that he could have nicked the femoral, which you can bleed out in under 5 minutes. But there was, with everything going on, my mind told me that I couldn't reach my right leg, so I couldn't put pressure on or anything. Um, and so I went to my left arm, which was the next most serious, because again, with the major arteries, I mean, if you're bleeding enough from one of your major arteries, you can, bleed out and die quicker, like in some cases under 3 minutes.
Ooh.
So I elevated my left arm just straight up in the air, and then I shoved my right hand basically like right up into where I thought the brachial was to try and slow and stem the bleeding a little bit so that I didn't bleed out. Um, and that was basically what all of my remaining strength went to, was basically just clamping down and trying to stem the brachial bleed.
Mm.
And then I rolled onto my left side as well, because of where the pain was on my left side. I figured that I was bleeding into my lung. And so, in the recovery position, if you have, a sucking chest wound or a lung wound, you roll onto the side that's affected so that, gravity takes the blood into the affected lung and you can still breathe out of the good one.
Right. Okay. Someone asked a question here. You triaging yourself. You are shot, your hand shot up, your leg shot up, you're shot in the butt, you shot in the chest, almost close to your spine. All of these things are happening right now. Why couldn't she come to your rescue there and triage you or help triage you?
She has no medical knowledge. It's, by far the most traumatic thing that she's ever seen. So she's freaking out a little bit. She did end up, while I'm doing this, she did end up rolling me onto my back a couple times, and at one point I stopped fighting that, so long as the left arm was still elevated. And she ended up, the 911 dispatcher was kind of talking her through it. I remember she got me on my back, and she got one of these from the neighbor, and was asked the 911 dispatcher, like, what do I do with the towel? How do I help him? And the 911 dispatcher just says, try to plug the hole. And I remember, pardon my language, I'm quoting her. She says, which hole? There are so many fucking holes. And I don't remember what the dispatcher said, but at one point she wrapped a towel around my wrist, my left wrist, because there was a bullet sticking out apparently. And at one point she did put pressure on my right leg, where I did end up having a femoral bleed. But yeah, it actually, talking about miracles, I was bleeding out in that hallway for a little bit over 10 minutes, and I didn't bleed out with 2 major arteries bleeding before the first responders arrived.
You mentioned earlier to me that you died.
Mm-hmm.
Believe that you died. Explain that.
I mean, I ran out of blood. I don't think my brain activity ever stopped, so I don't know if it technically counts as dead. But apparently the surgeons in there were doing had to restart my heart on defibrillator, and actually like pounded, like basically were punching me in the chest to restart my heart. And apparently that's what ended up working.
Wow. Because of course, the human body have just so much pints of blood that could be leaked out before they just pass out. I mean, just completely, before they die, really. And you were at the stage.
The human body, the average human body has between, I think they told me between 8 and 12 units or pints of blood in it.
Yeah.
And throughout the course of the life-saving surgeries, patching up the wounds, I needed a total of 20.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Okay, so, guys, if you just came in, you have to go back and watch the whole story. It's Gabe and sharing a life-changing story. Trust me, a life-changing story. What happened to him? So if you just came in, you have to go back and watch it from the beginning. Okay. Recovery. You're in the hospital now. There's so many things that's wrong. Your colon, your lung, possibly spine, your leg. Where did it start? Where did you start to recover?
So they had me sedated basically. I don't, this happened on May 2021. The first end of June afterwards. I had a whole bunch of surgeries. They cut my chest open. They cut my left arm open multiple times. There's multiple scars on my right leg, and I think I got a couple on my left leg. Like that, there was at least 2 weeks of surgery, basically, just reattaching nerves, closing up vital arteries, and either removing dead tissue and organ or patching whatever they could. I was basically like borderline comatose for the month of June, and then was mentally recovering. I had to learn how to trach me and put me on a ventilator for my lung. And then towards the end of July, they moved me into physical rehabilitation part of the hospital, and I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to, dress myself. It was basically like I was a 29-year-old's brain and a baby's body, and I had to learn how to do basically everything again. It was frustrating, and there were a few times I broke down, and like, what if I never walk again? What if I can never use my left hand again? There was a part of me that just towards the end just never thought I was ever going to get out of the hospital, just because of how many things were having issues. I actually because of the machines, I ended up getting a fungus and catching pneumonia while in there, so I was fighting off that as well.
Oh, wow. So the guy, the shooter,
Yes.
shooter, He ran. Police
Mhm.
were involved. What happened to him?
So yeah, they ended up catching him, or chasing him out to Elk River, Minnesota,
Mhm.
and I believe it was a mixture of the local PD and state patrol. They all cornered him, and the police actually went around to the neighbors' houses and said, "Hey, if you have a basement, get in it because we don't know what's going to happen." Because he had fired on the cops at this point, but he either my lucky shot hit him and he took, or the official story is that he turned his gun on himself. But by the time the police actually decided to clear up to his vehicle with guns drawn, he was dead.
Oh wow! So your pinky shot hit him. Your pinky shot. You was actually able to get him with your pinky shot.
I remember getting him, and I'm convinced of this because so when I was on the ground, I was facing him, and the last shot that he hit me in the torso, like I kind of like jostled a little bit, like I kind of like bounced a little bit, and when I shot back, I am do something similar,
Oh.
and so I don't think an insta kill or anything fancy. I mean, I could have just nicked his shoulder or something, um,
Right.
but I remember hitting him.
Right. Right. Right.
And it was very
So,
good. I did actually recently get curious and try to recreate the shot. And I actually only missed the target at that distance from only, not the target, but the bullseye by about an inch and a half.
right. Right. Okay. So he ended up ending taking his own life.
Yes.
Yeah. Guy was troubled. The guy seemed like he's clearly troubled, Gabe. The guy,
Mhm.
the guy was, man.
No, there was
Janice is.
some
So go ahead. Go ahead.
there was some family issues and some trauma he had, which even though he shot me, and even though him and I never had a pleasant word to each other or any words towards each other, I still, just out of respect, don't want to throw out, because there's some trauma I know about of his that I just don't want to throw it on the air. That's not my
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. And I'm sure that there's a lot of trauma that you are dealing with. PSD, um, just from the whole occurrence. I'm pretty sure that you probably still going through the trauma of, you know, recreating
Uh,
this situation. Fine.
I can't fall asleep on my left side because it makes me think of, if my arm's positioned in a certain way, I can't fall asleep on my left side because that was the side I rolled onto. I'm
Yeah.
kind of scared of hallways now, a little bit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
my
Right.
mother,
PTSD. Yes.
behavioral therapist, and referred me to a great, like specific gunshot, like related PTSD therapist that she knew, who I see, once a week, and she is doing wonders. I'm actually, sleeping again.
A lot of psychological assistance. Janice was asking about the girlfriend.
Mhm.
Has she been supported throughout the recovery process? Is she still there? Um, is she still at
Um,
recovery?
so because of, I don't want to say she had a sheltered life, but she, in a lot of ways, was still pretty innocent when this happened, and so it was an incident to her, and so she ended up, she ended up self-medicating pretty hard, and it got a little toxic. Had to, guys. Yeah, I've heard since breaking it off, she has gone to rehab, and I do sincerely wish her the best. I have, no ill will towards her, but the way that things progressed you know, in our traumas after the shooting, it was not healthy at the time to continue the
So
relationship.
you think that was a direct correlation, or that basically drove her over the top based on what she
Um,
saw. So now,
yeah, yeah, she was self-medicating pretty hard after that. I mean, she came to the hospital to visit me every day. Well, every day that she could, because they had two COVID restrictions, and so only a certain amount of people could visit per day, and sometimes that was family or another close. She was there every day to visit, even whether in a sober state of mind.
right, right, right. Um, listen, you are strong guy. I mean, do you believe in the whole construct of religion, God, Savior, miracles? What's your
I,
analogy
I'm
on that?
actually a Hellenic pagan, and being a kind of following the warrior path as I pray to Ares and Athena, but I don't judge anyone for their beliefs. So if someone wants to say that I have a guardian angel, or that God or Allah or whatever deity you want to put in there was in that hallway or was watching or was protecting me, I'm respectful to that, um, and I'm not gonna sit here and argue with you and tell you you're wrong.
Right. Have you
Yeah.
have you had a greater appreciation for life? Is it
Yes.
true?
There's a lot of things that I've become thankful for that I wasn't mad. It kind of caused me to recalibrate and slow down. Um, kind of try and use with family that I had previously burned, not be an absolute dad to my dog. I don't have kids. Um,
Oh,
and yeah, looking at silver linings, one of the, it, it was cool because it was really there for me and who wasn't. So I was able to,
yeah.
you know, cut some people out and give some good friends that came out of the woodwork the attention they're due and the respect they're due. Um, I was able to quit smoking
Mm,
because of the whole hole in the lung and the neck. It's probably not a good idea. I never want to have a hole in my neck anymore.
yeah.
And I don't know. I'm a competitive person, and I feel like if I give up and stop moving forward, the guy who shot me wins. So I may not ever be, but when I woke up in the hospital, I can do this again. So I might be able to use it someday. I can almost, yeah,
Almost. But listen, besides that, you're able to walk, you're able to
yeah.
talk,
Hmm.
you're very mobile. It seems as if you are like almost 90 plus percent fully recovered from being shot 15 times.
Yeah, I mean, I can do most things that I could before. I mean, learning or remembering how to drive and being able to drive again was a huge thing, just such a freeing thing. I did not, I liked driving before, but I'm so appreciative of just being able to turn the keys and even just go to the gas station. No.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's been an ordeal, but I'm almost there. Aside from the left hand, and I do have pretty bad foot drop in my right foot because of some tissue that died because of the shooting. So I do have to wear a mobility brace under my pants uh, to walk, when I leave the house or to drive. But I mean, my limp is actually getting better, and with physical therapy, my hand has really been improving. I think I just have maybe one or two mobility improving surgeries left on my left arm, but
Hmm.
yeah, I'm surprisingly pretty close to where I was at before. I mean,
Wow.
little chunkier because I can't really exercise the way I could, but
Right. Right. When you get a chance, so I know you did this video on Instagram that got a lot of views. A lot of people look to you as a for a center of strength when they're going through a lot of the problems. What's your major takeaway? Like, and how do you see life now? how do you talk? What do you tell people that are going through stuff, and in terms of appreciating every day that you're on the side of life?
I do want to say, if anyone's watching that does look at me as an inspiration and will look up to me in the future, don't compare your traumas and issues to me in a negative way. Just because you're going through something that, it may seem less, don't downplay it because I might have gone through something you consider worse. Your trauma and your journey your issues are affecting you. You're valid. Just because someone might have had it worse doesn't mean you don't have it that bad, and that you can't complain and you can't feel.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, Gabe, I thank you for sharing your story with us. I think that again it's very powerful. I hope it reach people, um, especially for the strength, because you could have said, you know what, I can't do it. I can't fight no more. I just want to give up. But you chose to live. You chose to live because you figured that you had a lot to live for. And I'm happy that you have made that decision so you could share your story. Any last word you want to say to the audience, people that's watching?
Keep moving forward. I feel like as too shall pass. Everything gets better eventually, as
Yeah,
as far as I've experienced. I never would have imagined year and a half after the shooting that I would be as close to where I was before as I am now, both physically and mentally.
yeah.
So yeah, keep moving forward. You never know what you'll miss if you don't.
And guys, this didn't happen 10 years ago. This happened last year. So
Into 2021.
in 1 year, you got shot 15 times, and in about a year, you are mobile, you are back, you're able to speak, do all of this stuff almost back to normal. I'm telling you, if that ain't strength, I don't know what is. Gabe, thank you so much. We appreciate you chatting with us and sharing your story here and Right Along Live. Remember, we say everyone have a story to tell. How could folks follow you on Instagram? Because we've been asking.
My Instagram handle is no love, just one word, no love underscore nomad underscore 0341.
We'll put it in the chat if anyone wants to follow you, and ask questions and just chit chat. We
Yeah,
appreciate
feel free to tag me in the post you make on Instagram if you do.
absolutely. We'll do that for sure. Thanks again, Gabe. We appreciate you, and
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This has been a great experience. Thank you.
thank you so much. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah, guys. In many instances, as I said, someone getting shot far less than this brother, they don't survive. This brother got shot 15 times, and he's here to share his story. It's a miracle that he's here to share his story. Remember, as we say here, guys, Right Along Live is where everyone have a story to tell. Yeah, everyone have a story to tell, and we want to hear your story as well. Let's take a quick commercial break. We'll come back with closing words. Don't move. We'll be right back.
Grenadian products are now only a mouse click away at GrenadaMarket.com. Nutmeg and guava jams, jellies and syrups, world famous nutmeg pain relief spray, black sage, soursop, lemongrass, and guabande bar. Ordering is simple and friendly. All major credit cards accepted. Safe, secure shopping guaranteed. GrenadaMarket.com ships your product anywhere in the world. So when you can't go to the island, the products off the island can be sent to you. Just log on to www.grenadamarket.com and experience our quick delivery and homely service.
All right. So For my closing words, guys, I'll leave you guys with this one. It ain't over until it is over. Yeah, it ain't over until it's over. It ain't over until it's over. You gotta keep fighting to the end. You gotta keep fighting to the end. Yeah, man. You have to keep fighting all the way to the end. Nothing else to say. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a part of the program today, guys. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for liking, and thanks for continuing to be a part of our groups, our fan club, our top fans, our supporters. We appreciate you guys so much. Remember, Ride Along Live is where everyone have a story to tell. If you have a story to tell, listen, we want to hear it. Inbox us. Call the number right there on the screen, 718-701-5720. Call us and let's have a chit chat. We want to hear your story, because your story, guys, could empower, enlighten, uplift others. That's what it's all about, you know. It's about paying it forward. There might be so many people that's sitting right now and they're going through stuff and they're saying, oh man, this is only happening to me. This is just only happening to me. And we'll get strength to know that there are others who went through the same thing and they were able to overcome. This is the strength that you get, right? So when you share your story, this is what happened. You're actually helping the world. You're healing the world. This is why we're here. We're your platform for you to share your story. Ride Along Live, where everyone has a story to tell. See you guys tomorrow. Good night. On behalf of our production team here, our chief executive producer, senior producer, Lois JJ, thank you so much. Our moderator team, we have Kibbs, Gail Charles, Deanne Fraser, Jacoby in New York, taking care of the technical stuff. We say thank you guys so much again. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Make this carnival a special one at Spice Isle Jewelry. Get up to 40% off our collection of silver and gold jewelry with purchases above $115. Visit our 2 locations on Grenville Street, St. George's and Spiceland Mall Grand Dance, and see our fine selection of traditional West Indian bangles, necklaces, earrings, rings, and our unique handmade pieces. Step into Spice Isle Jewelry and shop in air-conditioned comfort with friendly, helpful, and courteous staff. We also pay the most for scrap gold. Our repair service is second to none. Treat yourself or someone special with something special from Spice Isle Jewelry, serving you since 1986. Call us on telephone number 440-3155 or 440-6648. Sale ends August 31st.
Williams Funeral Service serve you with dignity and compassion as you mourn. Every day, we embark on the journey of life, and one day, the journey will end. It's on that day that you can entrust the celebration of life of your loved ones to David Williams Funeral Service. Call 718-291-3823.
Well, it's on Ride Along, so it's happening here.
Came over here. What does it mean?
You know, I grew up in what I guess you call a typical family.
We break all the stories, and that's just a fact. And that's why everyone has a story to tell.
Ride Along Live, I mean, yeah, it's the real deal.